A woman is just as much an ordinary human being as a man, with the same individual preferences and with just as much right to the tastes and preferences of an individual. What is repugnant to every human being is to be reckoned always as a member of a class and not as an individual person. In the early 1900s, the perception of women was very different than today. They had few of the opportunities or rights that women have now. Women were considered the weaker sex, squeamish, and unable to perform work requiring muscular or intellectual development. Decades later, this turned out to be a mistaken belief. In the 1970s, women were gaining courage to rise together and stand up for their rights. Through the efforts of many, America gained a new understanding of female capabilities with the passage and implementation of Title IX. Title IX is an Equal Opportunities Act that was signed into law on June 23, 1972. It states, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." The Civil Rights Act of 1964 energized the women's rights movement in the United States. In 1967, President Lyndon Johnson sent executive orders to make some clarifications in the Civil Rights Act. Before these clarifications were made, a women's rights group, the National Organization for Women, convinced President Johnson to include women in his executive orders. One of these orders is Executive Order 11375, which required all groups receiving federal contracts to end discrimination on the basis of sex in hiring and employment. A few years later, in 1969, Bernice Sandler used the executive order to fight for her job at the University of Maryland. She used data to show that university jobs were being given to men over equally qualified women. With the help of NOW and Women's Equity Action League, she filed 269 complaints against multiple universities and colleges throughout the nation. In 1970, Bernice Sandler and Edith Green participated in the congressional hearings where women's rights were discussed. It was in the congressional hearings where Title IX was proposed, and Congresswomen Patsy Mink and Edith Green got to work preparing an early draft of Title IX. During the hearings, there was little mention of athletics. Their main focus was on the hiring and employment practices of federally financed institutions. Title IX created much chatter and gained a great deal of support. On February 27, 1972, Senator Birch Bayh of Indiana introduced the Title IX legislation into Congress as an amendment to the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act of 1965. In his remarks on the Senate floor, Bayh said, "We are all familiar with the stereotype of women as pretty things who go to college to find a husband, go on to graduate school because they want a more interesting husband, and finally marry, have children, and never work again." While the impact of this amendment would be far-reaching, Bayh concluded, it is not a panacea. It is, however, an important first step in the effort to provide for the women of America something that is rightfully theirs, an equal chance to attend the schools of their choice, to develop the skills they want, and to apply those skills with the knowledge that they will have a fair chance to secure the jobs of their choice with equal pay for equal work. This policy articulated 3 ways compliance with Title IX can be achieved. This became known as the 3-pronged test for compliance. In order to meet compliance with Title IX, recipients of federal funds must meet one or more of the 3 prongs. Part 1. Female sports participation should be proportional to female enrollment in the school. Part 2. The school shows a recent history of expanding sport offerings for women. And Part 3. The interests and abilities of female athletes have been fully and effectively accommodated. Meeting any one of the 3 parts complies with the legislation of Title IX. Though equality in sports was not the original intent of Title IX, women's athletics has drastically changed since the bill was passed. Before Title IX, 1 in 27 women played sports. Now, 1 in 2 play sports.
Title IX really brought collegiate female athletics into the forefront. Until Title IX came around, female athletes had a very small stage to compete on, and it wasn't up to the caliber of their male counterparts.
Prior to 1966, there were very few women's athletics teams in high school or college. When they were introduced in 1966, there was a lot of animosity between the men and the women coaches. Men always got the bigger gym, better uniforms, and bigger budget, while women had the inferior budget gym and uniforms to their male counterparts. Title IX opened the door to more equality in athletics, though the journey was long and not always smooth. In 1966, when collegiate women's athletics began, it was like I died and went to heaven. I had the first opportunity of my life to play organized sports. Later, Title IX took everything to a new level and created opportunities women never had before. Debbie Kohlberg. My cousin Jill Camarina is an Olympic athlete. She's one of the top 4 women's shot putters in the world. Her athletic training throughout high school and college prepared her to be a world-class athlete. If we did not have Title IX, Jill would have never had the opportunity to become what she is today. Society would have still thought women too mild to be able to play such a sport. Heather Cairns, head women's soccer coach at Utah State University, competed on a high school track team and she wanted to pole vault. The team pole vaulting coach told her that girls cannot pole vault because their center of gravity was different than men's. A few years later, women were in the Olympics, successfully pole vaulting.
Well, I think with the growth of women's sports, it's affected everybody at every level. And you know, I've got 2 sons and 2 daughters, so I'm certainly into equality on the women's side. And you know, we've seen more and more things happen to try and give women equal opportunities with Title IX. And you know, for the most part, it's been extremely positive. The downside is with the emergence of women's sports, a lot of men's sports were eliminated.
Opposers of Title IX say it should be repealed from legislation because it gives women opportunities but takes men's opportunities away. The main purpose of Title IX was to create equal opportunities. It wasn't imposed to take any opportunities away.
So it took a little while to get rolling because you know that it wasn't necessarily an athletics issue. It was more of a disabilities issue and you know, an equal opportunity for education you know, initiative.
Title IX affects sports and athletics, but it also impacts other issues. Experts give credit to Title IX for opening doors to women in their journey to pursue equity in job opportunities and wage equality. Title IX also affects discrimination and harassment in education. For example, if you receive federal money for your education, Title IX ensures that your campus must offer you protection against harassment and must make sure that you can continue your education safely. All campuses have a department that regulates Title IX legislation and helps people express their constitutional rights. Surveys were taken before and after Title IX to see how the views and ideas about women in a muscular or intellectual position have changed. In 1972, only 75% of people surveyed in the U.S. said they would vote for a woman president. In 1996, 95% of women and 92% of men said they would vote for a woman president. Studies show that playing sports can prepare someone for a good job and help someone develop skills used in everyday life. 68% of senior female executives said that their athletic experiences prepared them to cope with failure. 69% of respondents said that athletics helped them develop leadership skills, and 86% of female business leaders said that sports increased their self-discipline. The implementation of Title IX has been a fundamental turning point in American history because it transformed the perceptions and rights of women. Furthermore, its legislation guards against discrimination and harassment in educational settings. The Title IX legislation propelled women forward, and without it, women would be running in circles without reaching the finish line.